Trying to figure out what you need to know when viewing a home? Stay tuned for part 2 of Viewing a House Checklist. Hey, this is Jonathan McCoy with Keller Williams Realty, Chattahoochee North, and we are looking at part 2 of Viewing a House Checklist. All right, next is laundry. Find the location of the laundry. If it's upstairs and you want it upstairs, great. If it's right next to the garage, maybe downstairs, perfect. But find the laundry and make sure the laundry location works for you. The next thing we're going to talk about are the age of some of the items in the home that could be costly to fix or replace. We're starting with the water heater. All right, the water heater can go about 8 to 12 years before you should look to replace it. Right? So look at the age of the water heater. See how old it is. Typically, there's a manufacturing date on there, but not always, right? So take a look, make sure that you see that, or if you don't see an age, ask for the seller to give that information out. If the water heater's older, again, if you're looking to replace it, it can cost you $1,500 to $2,000, somewhere in that range if you're having someone put it in. So take a look at the water heater. Next pricey item to look at inside the house is the HVAC system, specifically in the house, the air handler, or sometimes called the furnace. All right. This system, once again, sometimes has a manufacturing date on it and sometimes it doesn't. So first of all, locating this, sometimes if there's a crawl space on the house or a basement, it's in the crawl space or basement. Sometimes it's just in a closet on the main floor, sometimes in the garage, and other times it could be in the attic. So it's always good to find this out, again, either with the seller's disclosure or looking for it yourself. Now, what I found is the problem with the seller's disclosure is sometimes the seller, when they put the age of the HVAC system, actually only put the age for part of that system. So the HVAC is made of your compressor that sits outside the house, that's the one with the fan on it, and then inside the house is the air handler, all right? Now, sometimes the seller has replaced one of those items, the furnace inside or the compressor outside, but not both, and then puts the date of just the one they replaced. So it's always good to look for the date of the air handler that's inside the home. The life expectancy of an HVAC system is about 15 to 20 years. Typically, you can see sometimes the inside system, the air handler, the furnace, will last a little longer because it's not in the elements outside. All right, still while inside, let's take a look at the windows, all right? Check to see if you have single or double pane windows, all right? Biggest difference in these two are the energy efficiency. Single pane is not as efficient as double pane windows. And then next, if you do have double pane windows, what happens sometimes is the seal, all right, there's a gas inside the double pane windows that helps with energy efficiency. Sometimes a seal that keeps that gas in there breaks and then they fog over, and now they're not only as not energy efficient, but they also look ugly. So take a look at all the windows throughout the house, making sure that they're in good condition. All right, you're in the house, everything's looking great. And then it pops in your head, storage, where am I going to put stuff? Some houses have great storage in them, while others you look around and there is barely anything. So don't forget, make sure you look for storage, especially if you have lots of stuff. Yeah, we got a little bit of stuff, so storage is a good thing to have. All right, those were the tips for inside the house. And again, there are other things to look for when you're in the house, but those are things that you already kind of see. Size of bedrooms and living space, you can look at those. If you want a fireplace or not, those are easy things to check. Again, this is about what you might not think about. So moving outside, the thing to look for is the roof. Once again, seller's disclosure can help, but looking at the age of the roof is important, all right? So if you have something called a 3-tab shingle, that roof lasts about 20 years. If you have something an architectural shingle, all right, that's a 30-year shingle. Now, these are not specific lifetimes. If you have a lot of wear, if there's trees over the house, if there's debris on the house that stays there, this can cause the wear of shingles to go faster. But make sure you look at the age of the roof. Roofs can vary in cost. they could be $10,000 to $20,000. So make sure before you say, hey, this is a house we want, to take a look at the shingles and the roof to make sure it's in good condition. All right, another pricey thing is siding. Right? Especially in Georgia, there's this thing called pressboard siding that they've put on houses. It's a terrible idea. Pressboard siding is basically a bunch of sawdust pushed together and made into siding. Well, in a place that's hot and humid, this doesn't work well too often. So make sure you check the siding around the house, specifically on the chimney where a lot of rot can happen. Right? If the siding's in bad condition, just note that. Again, all of these things we're talking about doesn't mean you have to run away from the house, but you want to note them, that way you're aware of them, and that way you can also point out if this is the home to the inspector, hey, make sure you look at these items that we're concerned about. Pressboard siding certainly isn't the only type of siding. You'll see many different types of sidings on types of homes that you come across, such as vinyl siding and aluminum, stucco and brick. You have different wood sidings. So when you're at homes and you're looking at the outside and you're looking at siding, take a look at their condition, but also take a look at the type of siding. And if you don't know a lot about sidings, then you can look up information. And if this is the home that you're looking at that you love, when you get an inspection done on the home and the inspector's on the outside, you can always ask questions about the siding, what condition it's in, and what would be needed for the upkeep of that siding. Another thing, check for trees in and around the house and a driveway. Trees are beautiful. They add a lot of shade, but they also drop debris and sometimes limbs. They also can go under foundations, the roots, and the driveways and really cause havoc. So take a look to make sure about trees, also bushes, and see if they're touching the home. All right? Lots of times when you have limbs hanging over a home or bushes touching a home, that's how critters get in your home. And we won't go into detail of all the critters, but just use your imagination of what comes into your home and into attic and spaces. So just note that as you're going through and around the home. All right, next, take a look at the yard and see how it slopes, all right, either towards or away from a home. We want land and your yard sloping away from the home, all right? If you see that it's really level at a home or goes down towards a home, there's a possibility that you could have water issues. I'm not saying it's all the time, but it's a possibility. So take a look at the slope of the yard around all sides of the home to see, hey, is water, when it rains, is it gonna go away from the house or is it gonna go towards the house? All right, a great idea is going by a home when it's raining. Now, sometimes this can't happen necessarily before you make an offer on a home, but I strongly suggest that sometime before the end of due diligence, go by a home when it's raining and see where water runs. Even though you think you have an idea of where water goes around a house, sometimes you don't. So go by, take a look, see where water is standing at. Another thing to do if it's not raining often or it's not raining at the time you're looking, is kind of look around to see if there's dead spots or even soft spots in the yard, because you get a better idea of where water sits when it rains. All right, another thing to look for when you're walking around a home are dips or depressions, all right? Now, sometimes it's just a natural dip or depression, but other times, I've come across this before, sinkholes can happen, right? And what happens is, lots of times it's when maybe a builder came in, they decided to throw debris and trash in the yard and cover it up. Well, especially when it comes to wood debris, that eventually breaks down, yard sinks in, thus you have a sinkhole. So just, again, these are things to note. Note if there's depressions in the ground and maybe what those are caused by. So that's my list of things to do when looking at a home that you may not normally think about. So these aren't necessarily deal breakers for everybody. I highly suggest though, all the time, make sure you get a professional's opinion. Make sure you get the home inspection done. And again, if you're noting these items as you go through a home, make sure that you share your concerns with the inspector so they can take a further look, right? And as you're going through this process, right, know that things are negotiable in real estate. However, the seller might not necessarily give in to all these demands. If you need a new roof, they might say no. So you just need to make sure you feel comfortable with going in and knowing as much about the house as possible. So I hope these helped. And once again, if you want the checklist for going through your home, just click below. All right, I'm Jonathan McCoy. I post every Thursday, so think about subscribing, and I'll talk to you later.